Hi, welcome to Red Fox Sewing Crafting and welcome to my craft room. I'm Joanna. So today we will be making a vintage album. This is a very, very simple album. I kind of wanted to do like an homage to the store-bought albums before we started doing this kind of stuff. So there's just very basic, simple flaps and a small pocket in the back. That's it. So I have the cover made, and we are going to first work on the back pocket. So for the back pocket, you will need a piece that is 7 by 12 and a piece that is 3 3/4 by 6. On the 7-inch side, we are going to score at 1/2 inch and at 6.5. Then you want to turn it around to the 12-inch side, and we are going to score at 5 inches. On the 3 3/4 by 6, you want the 3 3/4 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2. Let me just check really quick. Okay, so we want to cut. We're going to start with our pocket. And you can use scissors, an X-Acto knife, your paper trimmer, whatever you're comfortable with. And we're going to cut the smaller hinge sections, smaller tabs. And you want to cut out the score mark along with it. So cut this out, and then we're going to miter, just like this. And we're going to do the same exact thing on the other side. It should look like this. And then you can miter the tabs or the corners of the tab section on the other side. Then going to fold and burnish our tabs. And then bring up the small section up and burnish that. Take your pencil and you want to mark just under the small section on just your tabs. So there is a 2-inch spacing above the smaller section. So I'm just lining it up on my score mat here, and I'm going to mark right past the 2 inches. And then I'm going to add some score tape if I can find it. There we go. Score tape, or double-sided adhesive. And I want to make sure to just go right up to the mark I made, which I almost forgot to do. So my marks are still visible. And then we can add glue again to just at the mark. You don't want to go past your mark. And then we can put the front down. For the pocket, or the flap, there we go. For the flap, we are just going to fold and burnish on our score mark, miter the 2 corners, and then we are going to attach it to our pocket with the tab on the back. So I'm going to put some double-sided adhesive on the inside of my tab. Just like so. And then put some glue on it. And what I like to do is I have my flap here, and then I'm going to turn my pocket upside down with the opening towards my flap, line them up like so, and then I can push it down. That way I know that my flap is as flush to my pocket as I can get it. Now, if you want, you can add a magnet to this, but I'm going to add some ribbon. So let's see about we go string 4. Let's do 30. Gonna flip it around to the back. And actually I'm going to use my big stuff for this. Okay, so I have double-sided adhesive on the back of my pocket, and I did get some of it off of the edge, but you could just push that on top of itself. And then I'm going to line it up with my mat here. And then this is just going to get centered. On the back as best as I can get it. Just like that. And then grab some more, a little thinner this time, just to cover up the ribbon. And then we can put this on the back. Let me see. So this is a 6 by 7, and our cover is 7 by 10. So that is I believe it's 8 by 10. Sorry. So that is 1 inch on the sides and then 1.5 inches top and bottom. Oh, I almost forgot the center one. If it will come off. There we go. Okay. So, glue everywhere on top of the tape. So you want to make sure it sticks extra good. Then I'm going to grab a ruler. And again, it's actually, let me do my smaller one for this. One inch on the sides, 1.5 inches on the top and bottom. So I'm going to line up my ruler. Along my back cover. I'm going to make sure really quick that I have it the right way, because it'd be sad if it wasn't the right way. And then just going to line it up as best as you can, just like that. And there is the back done. Easy peasy. Very cute. Our hinge. You need a piece that is 9 by 9. And we have 3/8 inch spacing, because these are uber simple pages. So you want to score at 3/4, 1.5, 1 7/8, 2 5/8, 3 3/8, 3 3/4, 4 1/2, 5 1/4, 5 5/8, 6 3/8, 7 1/8, 7 1/2, and 8 1/4. And now you want to trim a small smidge off of either side of your hinge. Going parallel to your score marks. So like about this much. So we have hinges. These are hinges, these are hinges, these are hinges, hinges, hinges. Should be fairly easy to figure out because they are the two larger spaces, larger score marks that we made. So I'm just going to add some double-sided adhesive to one side of all of my hinges. And if you are adding double-sided adhesive to yours, you want to make sure to add the double-sided adhesive to the outside of the outer two hinges because those are slightly smaller and you don't want to see or feel any stickiness from your adhesive. So now we're just going to fold on all of our score marks. We are not going to burnish yet. We're just folding. So it should look like this. And now I'm going to start with the two outer hinges because those are fairly simple. Going to add some glue to the outer side of your hinge for these two. Again, to make sure that you don't get any glue seeping out from your hinge. Going to burnish it really well. Because you want these to stay stuck. You don't want them to come apart. Gonna do the same thing to this side. And burnish it really good, making sure that it sticks. We're not going to worry about the gussets right now. We're going to move on to the 3 inner ones. So I'm going to start with one side. And line it up, making sure the edges of my hinge line up really well, the top and the bottom edges. I'm going to burnish this really well. And what I like to do is open this up, flatten it out on my mat, kind of get it really stuck down, and then fold back either side to make sure that the bottoms, both sides of the hinge line up, and then you can burnish. And there's your hinge. You want to make sure that your hinge bottoms are as flush as you can get them. The more flush they are to each other, the better your hinge is going to be, and the stronger your hinge attachment to your album will be. Then we're going to do the same thing to the next hinge. Stick it down really well. Open it up. And check both sides to make sure they're lined up. And then we can burnish. And I like to burnish both sides of my hinge. And our last hinge. I'm going to flip this around. Get a little bit flatter of a surface to my last hinge, and open it up. We can get this lined up as best as we can. Burnish it really well. And then we can go back and burnish our other two hinges. And if you have a little bit of the outer hinge coming over, you can try your best to cut a little bit of it off, but it shouldn't matter too much. You just want to try to get as much of it flat as you can. So there's our hinge. It is 1.5 inches, and our spine is 2.25 inches. So that's going to be 3/4 on either side. Or no, 3/8. Sorry, 3/8 on either side. I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to my hinge. And before I add my hinge into my album, I'm actually going to add some score tape to my hinge pieces, my actual hinges. And I don't put very much. I just put like this much. It helps me, gives me a guide to where to put my pages on my Hinge. That's all that it really does for me. So for the spacing of our Hinge, it is going to be 3/8 on either side and then 1/2 inch on the top and the bottom. So I'm gonna get this flatter so I can lay my ruler on. Like so. They're gonna add glue all over the back of the Hinge. And then just stick it down. Doing your best to line everything up. I'm just gonna check really quick to make sure that it's fairly even. For some reason it's not. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I'm going to do a little less on either side. Stretch it out. I'm going to do this a larger amount on the back and the smaller amount on the front, because sometimes it happens where you get all the right measurements on your Hinge and everything, but for some reason when you lay down your Hinge, it's not the, it doesn't line up, or it doesn't get centered perfectly. So just like, if that ever happens to you, just kind of figure out where you want the bigger portion and smaller portion, or if you can like try to fake it with getting even-ish spacing, then that'll work. So I always forget to put the pin in my glue and then it dries. You need to remember to do that. For the base pages, you need You need 5 pieces that are 7 by 9.5 by 9, 7 by 9, and 5 pieces that are 7.5 by 9. This is really easy, straightforward. All I'm gonna do is put the 7.5 at the top, score at half. That's it. Do that to all 5 pieces. Then you want to fold and burnish in miter on your score marks that you just made. So I have 4 pages already made, but this is really simple to do. You have your 7.5 by 9 and your 7 by 9. What you're going to do is add glue to your tab. And I put double-sided adhesive on mine to help it stick while the glue dries. And then you grab your 7 by 9 and you line up the edge of your 7 by 9 to the edge, to the scored edge of your 7.5 by 9. Just like this. Okay. Then you'll get 5 pages. And now we can add them into our album. And I always like starting in the back. So with these kinds of pages, I add glue to my hinge. Like this. I take my page and I like to put the hinge towards the back. And then I just line the edge of my page up with the edge of my hinge and my double-sided adhesive. As best as I can. Just like that. And then I like to check to make sure that it's as even as I can get it with my cover. And it looks fairly even. So then I add glue to the other side of my hinge. And this is a pocket page. So we're just gonna add glue to the bottom. Just like that. And then close it up and burnish. And yes, I did get a little of my adhesive out for showing, and I don't think I can. Maybe I can. No, I'm not gonna risk it. Not gonna try. Sometimes that happens and it's okay. You can take tissue or like no stick stuff and just kind of rub it across, and then like cover it with decorative paper or something. And then go on to the next hinge. Add the next page. And I like to check the next page with the previous page to make sure that they're lined up. And then glue on the hinge, glue on the bottom, and if you want to make sure that you're not getting any double-sided adhesive showing, you can do the hinge first. Like this. And then the bottom, and it kind of gets it a little better. Then you just keep adding your pages. The pages are in our album, and now we can work on the flaps and pockets. You will need 2 pieces that are 7.5 by 9. 1 piece that is 5.5 by 5.5. A piece that is 6.5 by 8. 6 by 8. 1 6.5 by 8. The 2 6.5 by 8s are going to be used on 2 separate pages. A 4 by 8. A 7 by 7.5. A 6 by 6.5. A 3.5 by 10. A 6.5 by 7 3/4. A 5.5 by 8. A 5.5 by 6.5. And a 6.5 by 7 3/4. And again, the 2 6.5 by 7 3/4 are going to be used on 2 separate pages. Starting with our first 6.5 by 7 3/4. You want the 7 3/4 at the top, and we're going to score at half. The 5.5 by 6.5, you want the 5.5 inches at the top, and we're going to score at half. The 5.5 by 8, 8 at the top, half. The other 6.5 by 7 3/4, 7 3/4 at the top, score at half. The 3.5 by 10, starting at the 10-inch side, half, turn, half, turn, half. The 6 by 6.5, 6.5 at the top, score at half. 7 by 7.5, 7.5 at the top, score at half. Oh, oops, I made a mistake. On your 6 by 6.5, the one that you just did, you don't want to score at half, or on the 6.5 inch side. You want to score on the 6-inch side. Score at half. This is going to be a 5.5 by 6.5 inch flap. The 4 by 8, starting on the 8-inch side, score at half, turn, half, turn, half. Your first 6.5 by 8, 6.5 at the top, score at half. Your 6 by 8, 8 at the top, half. Your second 6.5 by 8, again 6.5 at the top, score at half. Your 5.5 by 5.5, score half on one side, and then your two 7.5 by 9s with your 7.5 inches at the top, score both of them at half. And then we are just going to fold and burnish on all of our score marks, and on the ones with just one side scored, you want to cut the 2 corners off. And then with your 2 pockets, you want to fold and burnish all 3 of your tabs. Miter the top 2 corners. And then on the bottom 2 corners, you want to cut out the 2 squares on an angle, like that. So I have all of the flaps and pockets prepped, but before we add them in, I want to add my ribbons into my album. So if you want to add the closures that I do in my album, I'm going to add them now. Well, my ribbons. My magnets I will add after I put my flaps in. But I'm going to go through and tell you what closure I'm adding to each page. So this one is going to be a magnet. This one is going to be a ribbon. So I like to cut two 12-inch pieces for shorter lengths and about 18-ish inches for longer lengths inside my albums, and to adhere ribbon to my albums wherever I put them, I like to use double-sided adhesive. And I always use 2 pieces for each ribbon, one on the top and one on the bottom, to make sure that the ribbon doesn't come out at all. So I'm going to grab my ruler and add my double-sided adhesive. Oh, I need my bigger one for this side because it is on sides. Oh yeah, it's on the floor. So line it up with the page and then try to use the more even side. And then center it as best as I can, then add another piece right on top. That's how I like to do my ribbon. So I'm going to do the other side really quick. 4.5. At the 0. To figure out where this goes, and that's pretty good right there. Just gonna go with it, and that one down. Okay, next one. This page is a magnet. Oh, this is a pocket. And this is a flap that goes on the top, so the weight of the flap is just gonna keep it down. So I'm not gonna put any magnets or ribbons on it. Just a second here. Magnet, pocket, flap. This is a magnet. This is a pocket. This is a ribbon. So this is going to be 18 inches. Because it's top and bottom. And then I need 4 more pieces of score tape. And I'm going to use my smaller one for this side. So tape down. Then ribbon on top, another piece of tape right over that, and then I'm gonna flip this around to the top side. Add another piece of tape on the center. Grab my ribbon. Center as best as I can. And then the last piece of tape right on top. And then the last two pages are going to be magnets. So going back to the front, we are going to add one of our 7.5 by 9s. And the tab is going to go on the hinge side. So you just want to line it up with the edge of the page. You don't want to go over your page. So just like that. And stick it down. And then going to put one set of magnets on each of my pages. So magnet here. And magnet on the flip. Page 2. Starting with the 5.5 by 5.5. This is going to go on the outer edge of the page, centered. So I'm going to turn this around and then take the backing off of my tape and bend it over a little bit so that I can get the sticky side. And then oops, there goes my other ruler. Find the center of my page. Oh, put the centering ruler on my page. And then find the center of it and stick the flap down. Just like so. And then the 6.5 by 8 goes on the other side. And we're going to do the same thing. Peel the backing away a little bit. Line up my ruler. Line up my flap. And stick it down. And sometimes your backing gets under the tab. All you have to do is maybe take the backing off. I like to use my stiletto for this. Just take it off like that, and then you can just stick it back on. Page 3. So the first one is going to be, let me just check really quick. The 6.5 by 8. So that's this one. And that's going to go on the hinge side. So turn this around. Grab your ruler. Find the center. And then we can just stick this down. Like so. Right along the edge of your page. Your 6 by 8 is going to go on the top. So actually, you can just line it up with your hinge, or with the tab of your first flap, because it's 1/2 inch spacing. And your hinges should, your tabs should be 1/2 inch. So then it's the side one first and then the top one. And this is going to have a magnet again. And I need to put my pin in so that my glue doesn't dry out. I have a bad habit of doing that. And I'm going to put one on the underside of the top flap. In the middle bottom, so right around here, just like that. And then my second one, is going to go on the base page. So then when you close it up correctly, the bottom flap will get sandwiched between the top flap and the base page. Page 4 is the first of 2 pockets. So I'm going to turn this around. And it's going to go down here along the bottom. Starting with the bottom tab, just going to line it up with the bottom of your page and the edges. As best as you can. Just like this. If you want to, you could put some tape over this to help get stuff in and out easier. I don't have any tape at the moment, so I'm just gonna leave this. We can put down the sides now. Like that. Turn around so it's right side up. Page 5 is your 7 by 7.5. It's going to go on the top. Just like so. And as I said before, the weight of the flap will stay down, especially once you add paper and ephemera and stuff on it. So I'm not going to add any magnets or anything to it. Page 6 is a 6 by 6.5. That's going to go on the outer edge of your page. So, ruler lined up. And then find the center, just like that. This one, again, magnet closure. One on the inside of the flap, the other one on the base page. Page 7 is the second pocket. This is going to go on the outside of the page as well. So again, you want to start with the bottom tab of your pocket and line it up with the edge of your page as best as you can. Just like that. If you want, you can put tape over this. And now we can stick our two sides down. One and two. Page 8. Starting with our, what is this? Our 6.5 by 7 3/4. That one's going to go on the top. And I'm going to grab my smaller ruler. Line up with your edge as best as you can. Flip it to the bottom. Then we're going to add our 5.5 by 8. And this is a little weird because usually you do the larger one on the bottom, but I wanted to spice things up a little bit, not the larger one on the top this time. That down. That is page 8. Page 9. Your yes, your 6.5 by 7 3/4 piece is going to go on the bottom. So flip this around again. Line this up. Go. Get as close to the bottom as you can. And then your 5.5 by 6.5 is going to go on the side. So I'm going to grab my larger ruler again and line it up with my page. line that up as best as I can. And then this page gets a magnet closure. So 2 more pieces of tape. Two more magnets. And again, I'm putting the top magnet on the underside of the smaller flap. And then the other magnet on my base page. And page 10. Grab your second 7.5 by 9. This is going on the hinge side. Line it up as best you can along the hinge. And then one more magnet pair. One on the base page and oops, one on the flap. And once I put pattern paper on everything, then I'll go and actually tie these, because I want to make sure that my score tape isn't, my double-sided adhesive isn't sticking to my flaps. So that is how to do the vintage album. This is a really easy, beginner-friendly album. So if you're just starting out, this is a really good one to make. And if you liked making this along with me, hit the like button down below. If you want to see more, some more simpler albums, some more advanced albums, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!